Gambino family consigliere Joseph N. Gallo may have made huge headlines when he got caught up in a major RICO indictment during the John Gotti era, but for much of his early underworld career, he successfully remained in the shadows. But what was he doing in the shadows that helped him maintain his position for nearly 3 decades? Let's find out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mob Fireside Chat. At Mob Fireside Chat, we bring to life stories from the pages of Button Guys of the New York Mafia website. While we have stories on some of the well-known mafiosi, what we really specialize in are the lesser-known members of the crime families who form the backbone of what became organized crime itself. And the stories we share here at Mob Fireside Chat are but a smidgen of what is available for your reading pleasure at thenewyorkmafia.com. Whether it's an in-depth article or bio, or a small blurb in our picture galleries, you'll always learn something new and fascinating in the virtual library of organized crime known as Button Guys of the New York Mafia. Today, we're going to tell you the life story of Joseph N. Gallo, the iconic Gambino family consigliere who was, as you'll soon find out, an underworld enigma. After you watch the video, I'd love to know your thoughts, so please leave a comment below, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Mob Fireside Chat. Enjoy! Joseph Nicholas Gallo, also known as Joe N. Gallo, was born on January 8, 1912 in the Italian section of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Gallo moved to New York City as a young man where he was raised and mostly operated from all his life. His parents hailed from Bissaquino, Sicily. It should be noted that there are some sources who say Gallo was actually born in Bessemer, Alabama. Joseph N. Gallo was known for always having a quiet demeanor and gave off the appearance of a confident, sharp, and savvy mafioso. He was known to be very intelligent and well-spoken, and a man who was a notoriously fastidious and sharp dresser. But although low-key and quiet, Gallo was alleged to have performed contract killings for the family in his younger days. In fact, it was believed that he actually traveled around the country as directed by superiors to eliminate enemies. Among his known activities were a large-scale shylocking business, extortion, and labor union rackets. But his specialty was industrial racketeering inside Manhattan's multi-million-dollar garment center. The rag trade, as it is commonly referred to, was where Joe Gallo decided to concentrate most of his efforts. From the 1950s to the 1960s, he was also documented as having been a silent partner in various bookmaking and policy number networks in both New York and Baltimore. Some of these he controlled on behalf of copper regime Carlo Gambino, who at the time was one of the most powerful sub-leaders serving under Albert Anastasia. Over the years, Gallo would either create, buy into, or strong-arm his way into many lucrative garment design houses and dress factories based in the West Side Garment District area. Authorities tied him to at least 24 apparel manufacturers, cutting firms, jobbers, and garment contracting factories. He was so successful that by the 1960s, he was thought to have become a millionaire several times over. Joe was a full partner in a good half-dozen garment companies that gleaned work from several major Manhattan-based manufacturers that subcontracted work out to Gallo's dress factories. It ensured a huge built-in profit at year's end every year for decades. We're sure that as boss of the family, his partner Carlo Gambino received his fair share of garment profits as well. Carlo was also intricately tied to the garment industry through his ironclad control, later passed to his 2 sons, Thomas and Joseph, of an interlocking string of garment trucking firms that were based along Manhattan's West Side, sprinkled in between the thousands of dress firms, designers, and manufacturers, each and every one a potential customer for the mob's garment carriers and haulers. Side note, a highly respected member for decades, when Carlo Gambino became boss in 1957, he had appointed Joseph Joe Bandy Biondo and Giuseppe Staten Island Joe Riccobono to the hierarchy along with him. But after Riccobono committed suicide and Biondo was knocked down and demoted, Carlo decided to elevate Gallo to become his consigliere. It was a position Gallo would hold for nearly 30 years through 3 family administrations, those of Gambino, Castellano, and Gotti. Equally impressive was that up until the infamous 1966 La Stella police raid, Gallo had previously been a virtual unknown to law enforcement. Proof of this fact is that his name is not included in several major New York City Police Department, FBI, or Federal Narcotics Bureau handbooks of the era, which were typically provided to all detectives and federal agents in order to educate them on their potential targets and adversaries. He was also never named by informer Joe Valachi in his 1963 U.S. Senate hearing testimony before Congress. Upon good review of those infamous membership charts that Valachi painstakingly dictated for the U.S. Senate back in those days, Gallo's name was not listed once under the Anastasia Gambino family chart. So much for the man who only 3 years later would become the formal official consigliere of the entire Gambino Brigada. It was a position he'd occupy for the next 3 decades. During his long career, Gallo had been very adept at keeping to the shadows. Joanne Gallo was indeed an underworld enigma. By at least the late 1940s, he was thought to have been a soldier serving in the regime of a Bronx-based capo named Rosario Dangara, better known to the bent-nosed set as Charlie Brush. At some point, Gallo was elevated to serve as an acting captain for the Sicilian-born Dangara. He would serve in this capacity for years as Charlie Brush's eyes, ears, and proxy, overseeing his crew until Dangara's death in 1973. At that time, Gallo absorbed some of those soldiers into his personal little crew. Back when he was a young cappuccino, he was assigned to handle various duties, one of which was to oversee Anastasia Gambino family operations in Baltimore, Maryland. The Brigada maintained a separate regime there, headed by an old-line capo named Luigi Lumora Morisi. After his death, control fell to another capable mafioso named Francesco Francorbi, who with his brothers and nephews would run Baltimore for the Gambino family for decades. Gallo had been assigned as the Baltimore crew liaison with the family hierarchy back in New York City, first under Albert Anastasia and later under Carlo Gambino. It was well documented by the FBI that Gallo made numerous trips over the years to Baltimore on a near monthly basis in order to pick up the family's proceeds from various bookmaking, dice games, and numbers operations run by top Jewish gamblers under their control. On more than one occasion, Gallo traveled there to try and light a fire under the asses of their resident regime who ostensibly controlled the city. Capo regime Joe Gallo felt they weren't squeezing enough protection and tribute money from the city's illegal gambling fraternity. So, he embarked on a campaign to try and bolster up those light envelopes that were being collected and handed in to the complacent Frank Corby, who in turn split the monthly take with Joe Gallo and the hierarchy back home in New York. Among Gallo's closer associates through the years were the brothers Samuel Butch and Louis Ramore, who were both soldiers in the family and ran a Teamsters union local that organized New York City soda manufacturers and distributors. Another close associate was Anthony Tony Pepsi Vita, a soldier who served Gallo as a close and trusted aide for years. Other important Gambino members he affiliated with included Anthony Big Tony Vanilla, a soldier with a deadly reputation who lived near Joe in Astoria, and who was also deeply involved in garment district operations when not behind bars. Frankie Dap Dapolito, who also hailed from downtown Manhattan. Dap was a veteran soldier and acting capo for his skipper Ettore Zappi. A former boxer, he also served for years as a business agent of Teamsters Local 854. And of course his son, Joseph C. Gallo Jr., who was closely associated with his dad's world from the time he was a youth. Joseph N. Gallo got around pretty good. A favorite passion of his was to bet the ponies, and when they weren't running, then the dogs would do. In his younger years, he was also known for hitting all the hot night spots, like the famed Copacabana and the Stork Club, both in Midtown. And many a night he could be found front and center having a drink at the bar. But it wasn't always fun and games in the Mafia either. In his long and very successful career, Gallo would end up facing the news cameras as well as handcuffs on several occasions. Yet with all the later hoopla and for all intents and purposes, Joseph N. Gallo enjoyed an extremely low profile as far as the limited law enforcement knowledge on him went. The criminal record that the New York City Police Department had on him was scant at best. In 1966, at the age of 54, Gallo was arrested along with the mob's top glitterati while dining at La Stella Ristorante in Rego Park. They were all arrested on charges of consorting with known criminals and hauled away in paddy wagons in front of dozens of news reporters and cameramen. This incident has been referred to as the Little Apalachen Meeting, after the infamous 1957 meeting of top mafia leaders and their henchmen at boss Giuseppe Barbera's estate up in Apalachen, New York. Gallo would face numerous local and federal grand jury probes as a result of his prominence as one of the 15 most important mobsters of the New York Mafia, one of only 5 traditional consigliere who counts up thousands of mafiosi as a result of his seat on the commission. Yet despite all the exposure over the years, it was not until December 1987 that Joe Gallo would really face the music and finally pay the piper for his long underworld career as one of the most important mafiosi in the United States for over half a century. In June 1986, Gallo and 15 other top Gambino members and associates were arrested, including Joseph Joe Piney Armone, a longtime top capo and former prolific heroin trafficker, and Gallo's longtime aide, Anthony Vita. They were all indicted on various RICO charges, including racketeering and conspiracy, as well as extortion, bribery, loan sharking, and related counts. Gallo and Vita had been accused of operating a loan shark business, and one of the major bribery counts against Gallo and Armone was a plot to pay officials a $20,000 bribe to transfer Gallo's son, Joe Jr., from a tight-security New York State prison, where he was then being held, to a federal prison where he would receive better treatment and living conditions. On December 22, 1987, after a 3-month trial and 6 days of intense deliberations, the jury returned guilty verdicts against Gallo and his associates. Joe was acquitted of the loan sharking charge. Tony Pepsi wasn't so lucky and was convicted. But Gallo was found guilty on 2 bribery counts and 1 count of illegal interstate travel to commit bribery. Armone was convicted on only 1 of the 2 bribery charges. Up until June of 1986, Joe Gallo had never been formally charged with any crime. The wily old mafiosi had seen the inside of plenty of police station interrogation rooms and grand jury rooms as well, but the law had never been able to lay a glove on him until this conviction. It's probably the reason why prosecutors told reporters this case was special to them, because they were finally able to get their hands on the highly respected elder statesman of the Gambino family. In February 1988, standing before the judge at 76 years old, the venerable mafioso Joseph Gallo was sent up the river for 10 years and fined $380,000. After a lifetime of protecting himself very well from prosecution while he was active on the streets, Joe Gallo finally fell because of his instincts as a loving father. He pushed, maybe more than he should have, to do anything possible to try and ease his son's harsh prison conditions inside Attica State Prison. Who knows? Maybe his judgment was temporarily blinded by the love of a father for his son. If so, who could blame him? He loved his boy. A savvy fox his entire life, the wily Joseph Gallo died in 1995 at the comfortable age of 83. Button Guys considers Gallo's underworld career to have been a long and largely successful one. He served no less than 3 family bosses, apparently satisfactorily, for close to 30 years. He even filled in as the interim leader between hierarchy successions on several occasions. And with the one exception where he did face a serious RICO charge, it was largely John Gotti's hubris vein and arrogant operating style that ultimately exposed guys like Gallo to law enforcement scrutiny and arrest. It's quite possible that Gallo might not have fallen at all, certainly not as hard as he did if not for the careless acts of others that he tried his best to help with. And that's the end of our story about underworld enigma Joseph Gallo. We hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode of Mob Fireside Chat. And be sure to visit thenewyorkmafia.com for many more stories like this. Thank you for watching. Until next time.